Some killers hide in the shadows. Others walk among us, smiling, working, living as if they were ordinary. But a few shocked the entire world with crimes so twisted they've been burned into history. Let's count down 5 killers whose stories prove reality is far darker than fiction. Killer 5, Ed Gein, the Butcher of Plainfield. In 1957, police entered the remote farmhouse of Ed Gein in Plainfield, Wisconsin. They were searching for a missing shopkeeper. Instead, they walked into a nightmare. Chairs covered in human skin, skulls turned into soup bowls, masks made from the faces of women stitched together like grotesque trophies. In his closet, investigators discovered something even more disturbing: a woman's suit carefully sewn from the bodies of his victims. Gein wasn't a prolific killer. Only 2 murders were confirmed, but his obsession with grave robbing and his grotesque creations turned him into one of the most terrifying figures in American history. The horrors of his home inspired cinema's most famous monsters: Norman Bates in Psycho, Leatherface in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. Ed Gein didn't just kill, he decorated his home with the dead. Killer number 4, Ted Bundy, the Charming Monster. Ted Bundy didn't look like a killer. He was handsome, well-spoken, intelligent, the kind of man who blended in perfectly. And that's what made him deadly. In the 1970s, Bundy preyed on young women across multiple states. His trick? Pretending to be injured with a fake cast or crutches, asking women for help carrying books or loading his car. Once they were close enough, he attacked. Bundy confessed to killing at least 30 women, though experts believe the number could be far higher. He escaped police custody not once, but twice, vanishing into crowds, blending into society, and killing again. Even on death row, Bundy's charm fascinated people. He gave interviews, analyzed his own crimes, and tried to control the narrative of his life. But in the end, the mask slipped. Bundy was executed in 1989, and crowds outside the prison celebrated his death like the end of a horror movie villain. Killer number 3, Andrei Chikatilo, the Butcher of Rostov. In Soviet Russia, the government once claimed that serial killers didn't exist, but Andrei Chikatilo proved them wrong in the most gruesome way possible. Between 1978 and 1990, Chikatilo murdered more than 50 people, most of them children and teenagers. He lured them from bus stops and train stations with promises of food, candy, or small gifts. What followed was unthinkable. Brutal murders that often left bodies mutilated beyond recognition. For years, Soviet authorities refused to admit a serial killer was at work, insisting such things only happened in the corrupt West. This denial gave Chikatilo time, years of it, to keep killing while investigators arrested innocent men instead. When he was finally caught, his trial became infamous. Sitting calmly in a metal cage, he smiled, laughed, and even mocked the families of his victims. He was executed in 1994, but the scars he left on Russia remain. Killer number 2, Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee Cannibal. Jeffrey Dahmer looked like an ordinary man, a quiet neighbor, the guy next door. But inside his apartment in Milwaukee was a horror show beyond imagination. Between 1978 and 1991, Dahmer murdered 17 men and boys. He didn't just kill, he dismembered his victims, kept their skulls as trophies, and even consumed parts of their bodies. When police finally searched his home, they found severed heads in the fridge, human remains in acid barrels, and photographs documenting everything. What's chilling is how close Dahmer came to being caught earlier. On several occasions, neighbors complained about strange smells and noises. Once, a victim even escaped, but police returned him to Dahmer, believing it was just a domestic dispute. That man was murdered the same night. Dahmer was finally arrested in 1991 after another victim managed to escape and flag down police. In prison, he was killed by another inmate, but his story remains one of the most shocking examples of evil hiding in plain sight. Killer number 1, Richard Kuklinski, the Iceman. Most serial killers act alone. Richard Kuklinski was different. He was a professional, a contract killer for the mob. Known as the Iceman, Kuklinski is believed to have killed over 100 people. Cold, calculated, and terrifyingly efficient, he used guns, knives, poison, and even cyanide spray to eliminate his targets. To confuse investigators, he froze victims' bodies, making it almost impossible to determine their time of death. What makes Kuklinski truly chilling isn't just the number of people he killed. It's how normal he seemed outside of his work. He had a wife, children, and a suburban home. By day, he was a family man. By night, a ruthless killer. When he was finally arrested in 1986, Kuklinski gave chilling interviews from prison, describing his murders with no emotion. He spoke about killing like most people talk about their day at work. That's why they called him the Iceman, not just because of the freezer, but because of his heart of stone. 5 killers, 5 stories that remind us evil doesn't always look like a monster in the dark. Sometimes it hides behind a smile, a uniform, or even the face of a neighbor. These killers shocked the world, and their stories continue to haunt us to this day. Which one disturbed you the most? Let us know in the comments. This is Crinkflox, where true stories prove reality is far stranger and darker than fiction. Don't forget to subscribe for more.